Let's bring in former U.S. Air Force Assistant Vice Chief of Staff, retired Lieutenant General Richard Newton, NewsNation senior national security contributor. General, happy Monday to you. Thanks for hopping on. Let's just begin with the news of the day. I mean, your response to two hostages being rescued at the price of 65 Palestinian lives, including women and children.
Well, good morning, Markie. It's, I'm sure, very good news for Israel. I'm sure the families of those two hostages that have been held since October 7th. Obviously, there was very exquisite intelligence from the Israeli Defense Forces and their special operators to be able to go in and rescue these two hostages. As reported, I'm sure it was much of what we would call a daring rescue. By the way, the Israelis are amongst the best in the world of hostage rescue operations. It also shows that Prime Minister Netanyahu and his national security team have been laser focused on the hostages, certainly with intelligence, but also with a very short notice ability to strike. Notice with these airstrikes, but also with ground forces to go in and pinpoint and rescue these hostages. But it's a good news at the moment for the hostage families, the hostages themselves, and certainly for Prime Minister Netanyahu.
And let's talk about the Palestinians there on the ground. I mean, this raid brought a pounding of those airstrikes on Rafah, which has been designated the last safe zone for Palestinians. I mean, 1.4 million sheltering there now in these tent cities. Egypt is not taking them in. Israel has ordered those evacuations last week. I mean, where are they supposed to go now?
Well, it's quite a dilemma, certainly for those innocent Palestinian civilians. Where the fight was, you and I talked about this weeks or so ago up in the northern part of Gaza. It's now moved into central and southern Gaza with the focus on Rafah, which is right on the border with Egypt. And so you have what is normally a city of 280,000 people. As reported, it's now 1.4 million people, much refugees inside the Gaza Strip themselves. They have nowhere to go, and it's a very difficult situation for certainly those civilians, but also for Prime Minister Netanyahu as he pursues to prosecute and destroy Hamas. It's a very difficult position that they find the Israeli Defense Forces in, but nonetheless, I believe Prime Minister Netanyahu will continue to pursue Hamas, to destroy Hamas, even though there are international tensions and some even political winds against him doing so. But I don't believe he has a choice here.
This Israeli operation also marks only the second time hostages have been rescued since the initial October 7th massacre. Today was conducted through military force. General, what does this mean for ongoing talks of a potential ceasefire deal?
Well, I believe it's still a very, very difficult environment for these diplomatic talks. Frankly, Hamas holds many of the cards because they are still holding these hostages, and therefore it's going to be I don't foresee the opportunity for Israel to be able to go in and rescue all the hostages per se. But nonetheless, it's a very difficult position for Israel because of the intense domestic political pressure for the families of the hostages to either negotiate or try to free the remaining hostages. There are over 100 or so. And if I may, there's up to 6 Americans still being held as well. But the international pressure, even coming from the White House, to temper their relentless pursuit of Hamas weighs on Prime Minister Netanyahu. Final point. However, I believe that you're not going to bring Hamas effectively to any negotiating table, much less to even have them contemplate freeing the remaining hostages until there's intense pressure on Hamas in the battlefield.
Yeah, and we'll see what the coming days have in store, all while Secretary Austin is back in the hospital this morning right here at home. General Richard Newton, thanks as always, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.